Intelligence tells us at this point there wasn't even any unlawful surveillance going on, and that Susan Rice didn't do anything wrong or conduct herself in an unlawful way. And so, you know, these verbal gymnastics that Sean, I can understand why yesterday happened. The exhaustion, the level of exhaustion he must be feeling right now, having to deal with this president who is just sort of unwielding and difficult to corral, it must be a pretty draining experience.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you wake up and you see a tweet that changes your entire day, that's interesting in 140 characters or less. Talk about that for a second, about covering a president who has his own printing press, who, you know, it's a unique thing. Anybody?
Oh, I just wanted to mention, like, you know, I think what upsets a lot of our readers is when you hear people like, you know, when you hear the media being so willing to exonerate Susan Rice, as Jim just did, and, you know, they take a completely hostile tone towards the president, but when it comes to people like Susan Rice, they're not taking the same tone of hostility. And a lot of the news that they publish on that, I think a lot of our readers see that as sort of coming from one side. This is why our readers are so comfortable with the president describing the media as the opposition party. They're getting most of their talking points, a good portion of their sources from their Democratic friends. They didn't vote for the president. They don't know too many of the president's supporters. And I think that, you know, I think there is a difference in tone coming from the mainstream media versus Breitbart.
But Charlie, do you think when you say that I just let Susan Rice off the hook, I didn't let Susan Rice off the hook. You can go back and watch an interview I did with Susan Rice a couple years ago where I didn't let her off the hook. But let me ask you this. When the president originally tweeted that Barack Obama wiretapped me at Trump Tower, it's like McCarthy, it's like Watergate, do you think in the back of his mind he was thinking, oh yeah, Susan Rice, she unmasked some people, and that's what I really meant when I tweeted that? It just seems to me, over the last few weeks, the White House has been sort of fumbling around in the dark in search of a justification for these tweets that were just totally erroneous. And my question has always been, why doesn't the president just withdraw the tweet, retract the accusation? We just have not gotten to that point yet. And my question, you know, my question is, you know, why can't the folks on the conservative side of the news media, you know, just see the facts as they are? I mean, don't you agree, Charlie, that those tweets on their face are just wrong? The president was not at Trump Tower by Barack Obama.
Well, I think that there's a certain element of truth that comes from his tweets, and he was basing his tweets on a lot of existing reporting.
We're not talking about an element of truth. How about just the truth? Why can't we just have the truth? That's my question. And you know, as much as people want to beat up on CNN and go after CNN and CNN sucks and that sort of thing, which your readers do and your side of the aisle does, I was with Steve Bannon the other day where he referred to us as the opposition party once again. We're not the opposition party. We are just trying to get at the truth. And when you have a side of the news media that just insists time and again that, you know, that CNN is out to get the president or out to get certain people in this country, I think it just does a tremendous disservice to all Americans. I don't think it is American to go after a segment of the news media. Brett knows because Brett is a pro who does a great newscast every night on Fox News. I watch it all the time when I'm not watching Wolf Blitzer.
You can DVR us.
But I can DVR you, and I probably have. But listen, we have got to get to a point in this country where we're not demonizing one another and going after each other and cutting each other's throats because we don't agree with one another. I mean, and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to play to the audience here. I grew up in this city, and I do, and people talk about, oh, remember the days of Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill. That actually did exist, yeah. You know, and so we just have to, and Brett and I are very friendly with each other, and I'm, you know, I have a tremendous amount of respect for Carl Cameron and John Roberts, my Fox News colleagues out on the campaign trail. And I just, you know, I'd love to, for all of us to get away from this day where we're just ripping each other apart because of political differences. I think good people can disagree on the issues, and it's time for good people to disagree in a civil way about how the news is covered in this country. And I'd love to down the street of Pennsylvania Avenue, and I'd love to see it at places like Breitbart, and perhaps our folks can do a better job at that as well.
Well, I think those sort of the go along, get along, everyone gets along climate in Washington, D.C. is what Americans are tired of. They're tired of the closeness of the news media with the officials they cover. They're tired of the stories of everybody hanging out, going out to dinners and partying, and they're tired of their issues.
That happens with Republicans and Democrats, too, to be fair. I mean, it's not as though reporters are hanging out with only Democrats. We have dinners and lunches and coffees with Republicans as well.
Right, but it's part of the establishment. It's part of the swamp that, the Trump supporters were very sick of.
Charlie, the campaign is over.
The one thing I will say is